My name's Tom Whittington. I'm a Retail and Leisure Research Director at Savills, and I undertake consultancy and market commentary for a range of clients. I've been working in retail destination industry for almost a quarter of a century. They've evolved substantially over that time. Over 20 years ago, retail park development absolutely changed the dynamic of retail, and now what we see is a polarisation within shopping centres to those that are more community and amenity based and those that are more destination and leisure based. I'd say the biggest trend that's affected the industry is the way that consumers want to be fulfilled. They want things on demand, they want things where they want them, when they want them, and at the price that they want to pay. And that's ultimately changed the dynamic for shopping centres. That's why so many shopping centres are now leisure orientated, because that's very much in favour of what consumers want. So much of retail is online, so people look to different ways of steering those particular schemes, and that's what's changing the dynamic. Yeah, so tenant mixes have evolved again to meet those consumer trends. The fact that we have too much retail space nationally, and that means we need to think about what we do with those spaces. So quite a lot of good schemes are now bringing in health workspace, leisure, community spaces, and that's ultimately changing the tenant mix. The other thing that's really changed from a retail perspective is that we've seen a lot of retailers leave the high streets over the last decade, but what's beautiful about retail is like Phoenix from a flame, there's always something exciting and new, and actually we've got some really, really interesting concepts, both in retail and leisure, that are coming through and changing the place for good. One of the most creative examples of innovation within a retail environment that I've seen most recently is in Bobby's department store in Bournemouth. It's a former Debenhams. Debenhams clearly closed. They needed to think about something alternative to do with that space. They've managed to keep the cosmetics working on the ground floor, but then they bought co-working space to an upper floor. They've got a botanist bar being developed as we speak on the top floor. It's really going to enliven that particular space, but it's very cool, it's been beautifully done, and the most important thing is they've managed to make this change while still operating the scheme from the ground up. ESG has a huge part to play in shopping centres and all in retail environments, and particularly when we think about the investment values of those places, because all investors are looking for good environmental performance, otherwise those assets are likely to become obsolete. The other really interesting dynamic is with social value and actually social impact, and not just thinking about what those schemes can give back to the communities, but actually in doing so, what that means they get back in terms of the investment value by bringing people and creating more footfall has a huge part to play in the future. If I was to say how e-commerce has really impacted the retail environment, it's basically forced it to pull up its socks and create a much more interesting, engaging environment. So we see the immersive experiences, we see LED screens, we see more interesting social media friendly retailers. Those are all things that have really been forced in because of e-commerce, and that's why there's still a future for retail.